Hi, I'm Robin Schultz with the Hoover Channel. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you'll always know when we have a new video coming up.
We're going to start our work session. We'll walk through our agenda items for Monday night. Beginning with item 3, appointing a member to the Board of Ed for a term of 5 years. Ms. Dickinson, I know we have interviews, chairperson and driver. Do you have a recommendation on Monday night?
I will, Mr. President. Yeah, I did. I'll have a recommendation on that.
Very good. Item 4 is a resolution for an alcohol license for Alabama Goods LLC.
No issues with this request.
Any questions? Ms. Dickinson?
My mic is not working. There are no issues.
With that request from the police department or from the zoning department.
Very good. Any questions, Ms. Dickinson? Item 5 is a resolution approving alcohol license for Sticks and Stones. Ms. Dickinson?
There are no issues from the police department or the zoning department on this one either.
Any questions from that? Next on the fountain is Curt making his way to the microphone for item 6, authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Digital Technologies.
Good evening. This is actually an amendment to 8403-25. The long story short to this is one of those cases where dragging your feet pays off a little bit, even though it may not seem like it. The servers went up $5,414.48 from the time that we got the quotes to the time that we got it. Resolution says we can't exceed the $98,616.89. The benefit to that was the cameras that we passed at the same time, they went down a significant amount. So we actually came out to the good on it. We don't need any more money. We just need to amend that resolution so that we can spend $104,031.37 on the servers.
They used to delay sometimes.
Yes, sir.
So, no.
But usually not. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Chief Bentley, Ms. Cornett is here for item 7. Acknowledging the receipt of the check, I think we received it last week. That's correct.
Yes, that's right. It's a $1,500 contribution to the operations for the fire department. So this is a request to accept that and allow the expenditure to be made.
Questions on that? And item 8, resolution accepting the grant, Firehouse.
So I'd like to say a special thanks to Chief Lawson, who wrote this grant for Firehouse Subs. And we were awarded, or being awarded the grant for $43,000 and some change. It's for extrication equipment for a ladder truck, and it's a full set of equipment. And so I think that's in your packet. And so we've got the proper paperwork filled out. We just wanted to present this to you so we can get the resolution signed.
Very generous.
So the budget amendment is 100% of the funding is coming from this grant. And so we're asking for an amendment both for the revenue and the expense side of that grant.
You can also, in your packet, there should be a quote for the equipment that we'll purchase. And so it's all listed there.
Any questions for the chief or this one? Chief Bentley, I think we have number 9 as well, accepting the bid for cabinet build and refurbishment project.
So we've got a couple of station projects we're going to try to complete. We didn't have enough funding in the budget to do all the projects, so we kind of shuffled some money around. And in order to do that, we put this out for bid. We're going to have a little sweat equity in this project with our people. so that we get more than one project completed. And we had one bidder, and through the competitive bidding process, because the job was small, I would assume, and we're asking that you approve that.
Any questions on that?
There's no additional budget request to fund that project for that bid.
Number 10 is a library theater renovation. Ms. Ford.
If you'll recall, we've been trying to renovate that library theater for about 3 years, and we did receive 3 bids for the renovation, and we are requesting that we award the bid to the low bidder in the amount of $267,747. Unfortunately, that bid, along with other supplies, chairs, and architectural fees, will still be a little more than we have budgeted, and so we are requesting a budget amendment so that we can complete that project in August and September.
Those are items 10 and 11.
That's 10 and 11.
10 and 11 together. And the additional ask for budget is $70,000. This is not new money that's being requested from the general fund. Rather, there is a completed project, which we had excess funding left over from, so we're just requesting permission to shift from that project and capital projects to this one.
Yeah.
Questions for these ladies? That's all on the consent. We move to the regular. Item 12 is resolution authorizing the mayor's agreement with Freya, Regina, and the Walgreens, which is on
For this agreement, it is related to a sort of local settlement of long-time litigation at the intersection of Highway 31 and Lorna Road. The parties have tentatively agreed, subject to your approval, to a settlement agreement that would allow those repairs to proceed. You guys have copies of that agreement, and I can answer any questions or go through those terms tonight or Monday, or answer questions when you're ready.
Very good. I know we received that midday today, so it's pretty fresh in everyone's inbox.
Yes.
We do have 4 days between now and Monday afternoon or evening to have questions answered. Any questions tonight? I know it's still
This may be more of a question for you, Ms. Cornett. There's not a budget amendment that's required along with that resolution?
So there is not a budget amendment request tonight, because we would like to go ahead and bid the project first and then come back and ask for the funding after the bids come in.
Any other questions? 13 is a resolution amending the budget for the Performing Arts Center Fund.
So I think we might want to talk about 14, the general fund balance policy and the emergency fund policies first, and then consider the budget amendment just from a logical standpoint, if that's okay. At the last council meeting, the group asked me to come up with a proposal to rewrite the existing policies that we have for the general fund balance, and for the budget stabilization policy. And so after a lot of consideration and discussion among our team members internally, and also other qualified people like our investment advisor, I would like to present the general fund balance policy first. And I don't know if you have a copy of that document or not, Wendy, that you can show. But in short, our existing general fund policy requires a minimum total general fund balance of a little over $69 million, which I believe council has found that to be a little bit restrictive in terms of being able to take care of some important infrastructure items for the city, which was what gave impetus to the request to rewrite this policy. The spirit behind this policy is to have a conservative approach to making sure we have adequate reserves. And $60 million is the recommended beginning amount for our reserve. To be and I'm proposing that to be effective immediately. In order to keep that $60 million reserve right-sized as the economy changes, as the consumer price index increases, and as the city grows in revenues and expenditures, we are recommending an annual update or annual addition based on the lesser of 4 months worth of actual revenues from the prior year or the CPI-U adjustment. And that's basically the best, I guess, short summary of the policy that's recommended here. The $60 million came from an approach that says we would like to have 4 months worth of revenues in our reserves, and our revenues for fiscal year 24 are going to be right at $180 million. So 4 months of reserves would be $60 million. Just to kind of explain that starting point. If we wanted to instead kind of evaluate that based on the actual expenditures for fiscal year 24, that equates to 4.67 months of expenditures in the reserve. And so that's kind of the explanation behind why we feel like $60 million is a good starting point for that. That's the general fund balance policy proposal. Recommending that goes into effect immediately and then to be adjusted at the end of fiscal year 2025 with that escalator built in.
So can you explain a little bit more about what the escalator, what that index is and how
Yes.
that's relevant?
Yes. So the consumer price index represents the relative change in the purchasing power of a dollar. The specific price index, because there's several of them, that chose was the consumer price index for all urban consumers in the South urban region, okay, which would describe us, and based on a not seasonally adjusted number published by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. So what's nice about having a measure like this is it isn't up to any kind of shenanigans, right? It's published. It's something that you can hang your hat on, that is easy to calculate, but also represents the real and appropriate amount of reserve as time changes based on the purchasing power of that dollar. As we looked at the CPI-U for this region over the last several years, the range of increase was between, I think, 1.9% and maybe 3 was the top for the years that I looked at, and I'm recommending that we measure that as at the end of our fiscal year. So previous year to current fiscal year, and look at the change and use that percentage. It's very straightforward and makes it easy to apply.
Any other questions?
Okay, so the next item that I wanted to talk about was the emergency fund policy. So that was item number 15, right? The emergency fund policy is designed to replace the budget stabilization rolling reserve policy that existed before. I think the intent behind that policy was to make sure there was a permanent reserve available in the event of emergencies that the city needed to take advantage of. The proposal for the emergency fund policy is just to make it very straightforward and say that we would like to commit 5% of the minimum general fund balance that's required based on the general fund balance policy, and make that be the committed portion of the general fund balance for emergencies. So as that general fund balance changes, the amount required in the emergency fund would also change. $3 million rather is 5% of the 60 million, so that's how the math got there to be $3 million to start with. But the advantage of having something like this would be that the mayor could propose and council could approve emergency use of funds as conditions arose that made that necessary. So this one also was designed to start at an amount immediately and then to be adjusted for the first time at the end of fiscal year 25, just like the general fund balance policy. And there are some set responsibilities of who's supposed to do what, just to delineate that in the policy as well. So it would be the city treasurer responsibility to make sure that annual commitment is made and talked about. And then it would be important also for the body to approve any expenditures from that fund,
As recommended by the mayor.
as recommended by the mayor. Okay, so now we can talk about the item number 13, that was a budget amendment for the Performing Arts Center. At the last meeting, we shifted some budgets so that we could comply with IRS regulations related to our bond funds. And in that process, and as a result of some of the necessary sewer expenditures that we had, that left the Performing Arts Center, the portion of funding for the Performing Arts Center to be less than the $17 million that was originally established as part of the bond funds. So this is a budget amendment to transfer money from the general fund to capital projects to restore the amount allocated to the Performing Arts Center so that it will be renewed and back to the $17 million.
It's an overview of all three items, 13 through 15. Any questions? Good. We'll do our regular agenda. Item 16 is an ordinance to provide for levy of municipal taxes. Second reading, Ms. Cornett, general annual housekeeping.
That's right. Every year, council needs to vote that we're going to levy taxes that are part of our revenue base for the city. And so this is the same kind of ordinance that was made last year to allow the city to be able to do that.
Any questions on that? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Item 17 is to amend the ordinance for an agreement with MCI Metro Access. Ms. Dickerson.
Yes, this is just to amend the name. It had corporation in it and LLC. It was changed to, and then there was a couple other minor changes for parent companies and in that resolution, in that ordinance.
Any questions on 17? And 18 is a second reading for an ordinance to establish polling locations for the election.
And there's no changes from the last time on this where we had the first reading. Is adding 4 locations in the city, all in Jefferson County.
Any questions on that? Mr. Reeves. Not here. Mr. Young, I know about these. Item 19, authorizing the transfer of real property from the city for public purposes to Shelby County. That's 19 and 20.
Yes, sir.
Take both those, please.
Yes, sir, that's correct. And this is the same thing that we talked about 2 weeks ago. Second reading on this is for the Valleydale Road project.
Any questions on that item? Item 21, Mr. Martin. The second reading and public hearing for additional use for event on stage.
Yes, sir. This is for the event space in the shopping center directly across Highway 31 from where we stand now. Of course, this came with a positive recommendation from the Planning Commission last month, and it comes to you with conditions recommended. Those conditions should be in the resolution itself, related to additional ADA compliant parking, building code requirements, hours of operation, and obtaining a CO and business license prior to.
Any questions, Mr. Martin? 22, Mr. Martin, is ordinance change for zoning of 2208 chapter.
Yes, sir. Second reading for this item. This particular property comes to you with positive recommendation from the Planning Commission from last month. It actually resolves an issue where the property is currently split into 2 zoning districts, our R1 and our E2 zoning districts. This rezoning will bring all of the property under the E2 estate residential zoning district. And this is in preparation of a 2-lot subdivision that we anticipate next month.
Question or not? And finally, 23 is a change to our ordinance regarding swimming pools and zoning thereof.
Yes, sir. This amendment, in essence, removes the differential between above-ground pools and below-grade pools with new designs that we are coming across nowadays. The 25-foot setback has become problematic for any pools that are above grade. And so in taking a look at other communities that are similarly positioned to us in the way of housing stock, population, geography, topography, and the like, we found that the proposal would be more in line with the practices of those other communities, whereby no longer is there a 25-foot setback if a pool goes above grade. It is reduced to the 10-foot setback currently in place for below-grade pools. We do have a provision that there's a cap on the height of the pool above grade at 6 feet. We can permit by right any pool up to that point. If there's a case where design goes higher, the above grade portion of the pool is higher than 6 feet, we provide for a mechanism whereby they will come to this body for conditional use approval.
Mr. Martin, I know you put a lot of work into this, and I've heard since the first reading, very positive feedback from both pool companies and residents who have been burdened by this.
Yep.
Thank you very much for all the work.
Thank you.
Any questions? Very good. That brings us to the end of the agenda. We will gather Monday for voting on these. I know we wish everyone a happy Good Friday and a happy Resurrection Day also. See you Monday.